Welcome back to the webinar series, a multidimensional approach to building your personal brand. This is module 4, the 7 habits of highly effective people. I welcome back my good friend, Matthew Perkins. He is the professor. He is at the Nashville Film Institute. He teaches this stuff for a living, believe it or not. And he is actually the brand new host. He's 4 episodes deep, about to be 6 episodes deep into his first season as the host on the Bleav podcast network, the show Bleav in Vanderbilt football. I make an appearance in episodes 1 and 2.
Yes, you do.
He has a lot of great shows.
And you'll be back in episodes 7 and 8 as well. So
exactly. So stay tuned for that. He has a lot of great guests on there. So if you're interested in Vanderbilt football, check it out. Hit subscribe.
Thanks for the plug. Thanks for the plug, Corey. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Like Corey said, my name is Matt Perkins. I teach audio engineering, film marketing, film business, and documentary production at the Nashville Film Institute. And I am an audio engineer by trade, but I have experience. I've been working in and around film and media production for about 15 years. So I've seen my fair share, I guess I could say, in the industry at this point. And but I'm actually really glad, Corey, that you brought me on today to talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people, which I know seems like a super lame self-help book. Especially if you're 15 to 8 years old, you're probably thinking like, what on earth could like some like corny self-help book do to help me with my life and my problems? And
we're going to take it a step further. We're going to break that down. Tell you how you can apply this to your life, because I'm reading a book, and it's really good. It's so good, I don't even know the title of it. I'm doing a book study for professional development. The contents of the book is awesome, actually. So I got to go back and figure out what the title of it is. I know that sounds really bad, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the Y generation, and how they question everything, and why is this important for me? What is in it for me, and things like that. So I think this webinar module will help that. It's more than just a self-help book of us just going, hey, here's advice because I said so.
No, and so like one of the things that I will admit, I was a bit of a skeptic the first time I read this, but a couple things before I really get into this. So this is not tailored, originally maybe this was thought of as a book for like executives and sort of management types, but this is actually a book that can help any person in any walk of life, because it is really about big picture stuff. It's really about the big picture thing, and it's about self-actualization, which is a term that I hate because it seems like, again, super corny, but it is about, being able to introspectively look at yourself and figure out what it is that you do well and what it is that you need to develop or improve on. Mm-hmm. But furthermore, there are schools even within MMPS that are what we call Leader in Me schools, and Leader in Me schools are ones where the curriculum is based and designed around 7 habits, adapted for mostly elementary schools. Fall Hamilton Elementary over in the Berry Hill area is a Leader in Me school, and their curriculum is developed around these 7 habits, and there's a reason for it. It's because it has been proven effective time and time again that even if you don't strictly adhere to every single tenet and every single thing in these, they are a good guide for, at the bare minimum, understanding yourself and understanding who you are as a person and who you are if you're in the filmmaking world as an artist. But even more so, it can help you grow and develop and become the person that it is that you want to eventually get to. So I've got some slides. Corey knows I love me some good slides. So I'm going to go ahead.
PowerPoint.
You know what? I do love PowerPoint. I've loved PowerPoint since I was very young, because I am a bit strange and a bit off at times. But
Matt, I've really, I said this in a previous module. It's something that I'm going to live by from here on out. Adobe Spark. The Adobe Spark pages is like PowerPoint on steroids. I've really fought. It's my new thing. It's my new favorite thing.
I'm glad to hear it. You're going to have to teach me, because I've been working PowerPoint for 25 years, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to give this up anytime soon. But so let's get back to my. Let's hop into my slide.
When I tell you how easy this is, you're going to be like, Corey, you've been sandbagging me. What the heck?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I expect you to make a page for me then. So anyhow, let's talk about 7 habits of highly effective people. So the book calls itself a 7-course meal on how to take control of one's business and career and become the complete fulfilling person that one envisions. Sounds a little corny, but it is, this book and the 7 habits, and we're going to go through these one by one, can be keys to success for people in literally every single walk of life. And it's all about integrating the different responsibilities that you have, whether it's personal, professional, family, all together, and becoming the fully self-realized, fully self-actualized person that you want to become. And these are really moving us on what they call maturity continuum, from dependence to independence to interdependence. And interdependence, the last one of these, is really key, because we all know what being dependent is, right? That means we're reliant on someone else or some other thing for basic needs. If you're independent, you can rely on yourself for those kinds of things. But interdependence means that you both rely on other people and other people rely on you, because when you are working interdependently or working together, you can become greater than the sum of your parts.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 3 of the habits are the more of the dependent habits, the ones that really are more about you and how you look at yourself. The second 3 habits, numbers 4 through 6, are ones that are more how you function with other people. And then the final one, the 7th habit, which we'll get to, Sharpen the Saw, sort of surrounds all of them to help you really improve on all of the other facets. So let's hop right into habit 1. Habit 1 is be proactive. Be proactive. Now, we've all heard the term proactive in some way, shape, and form in our life, right? And at its most basic core, being proactive means, going out there and actually doing something before you're told to, before you have to. We think of being proactive as being the opposite of reactive. And so I like to really posit this in terms of language, right? So I've got these 3 sets of phrases that are a reactive version and a proactive version of the same situation. So if you are really frustrated by a problem, at the end, a reactive way to think about it would be like, there's just nothing I can do about it. Can't do anything. Sorry. Whereas someone with a proactive frame of mind says, okay, no, let's look at different alternatives. Let's look at this from a different angle. Let's take a different approach, right? Same thing. Reactive wins. That's just the way I am, it's just the way I am. Sorry, but if you're actually being proactive, you say, no, I can actually choose a different approach myself. I have the ability, because I am a person who has free will, I have the ability to make cognizant, active, proactive choices. Mm-hmm. Or something like, he makes me so mad. I'm sure all of you guys who have brothers and sisters, especially if you have a little brother, he probably makes you so mad. And when he's doing something really annoying, you could be there and react and be like, oh, he makes me so mad. Why can't he just stop it? Whereas someone who is proactive says, no, I can actually control my own feelings. Mm-hmm. And even though he is doing this thing X, Y, and Z, I can take responsibility. Being proactive is all about taking responsibility. And it's all about taking responsibility for yourself and being in control of yourself, and not allowing yourself to become reactive, not allowing yourself to, slip back into these things as, oh, it's the way I am. He makes me so mad. You have the ability. You are a walking, talking, living, breathing person. You have the ability to take control and take responsibility. And that is the first habit. The first step in this journey is to take responsibility for yourself. And that's what being proactive is all about.
Exactly. And a good example of the last point there, I control my own feelings, can be something that could be a good day one. Welcome back. Here's the syllabus. And here's habit 1, be proactive. I can control my own feelings. Well, he's talking and I'm going to get mad and start throwing stuff. And, this is something you see in high schools with students that aren't quite as in control of their emotions.
I see it in my college students. I mean, it is not limited to high school. I see it. My wife's an elementary school teacher. I teach college kids. We have a lot of the same problems. Mm-hmm. So,
you almost have to teach them not how to control their emotions, just how to figure out that they can.
Absolutely.
By
And it's a moment of self-actualization when you realize that, oh yeah, I don't have to respond to what is happening right now by, by throwing something, by throwing a punch, by, by yelling at them.
Yeah.
You have the ability to, to think and take accountability and responsibility for yourself.
Yeah. So let's look at some alternatives of how you can handle the situation. So you can actually just for that one act, you can look at all 3 bullet points there and say, hey, let's look at alternatives. Let's help you find a different approach, and this will help you gain control of your own feelings. So being proactive is something I can do with my football players, something I can do with my students on day one.
Absolutely.
Hey, this is the expectation. Be proactive, not reactive, and then tell them what it means.
Absolutely. And this is actually something that is really good when it comes, is super important. All of these the reason it's called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders is because these are the things that we need to see out of our leaders. We need to see that our leaders are proactive in taking responsibility. No one is going to want to follow someone who is reactive. People are drawn to follow people who are proactive. So let's then move to the second habit, which is begin with the end in mind. And this is the principle of personal leadership. And it's the idea that, well, you don't just take off to do something just to do something. You actually think about it. Think about, okay, where is it that I am trying to go, and planning your steps out to do so. So it is at its most extreme version. It's starting today, beginning today. Begin your day with the image of what you want your life to look like, what you want the pinnacle, the end of your life to look like, and use that as the criterion by which everything else is examined. So starting with a clear understanding of your destination, understand where it is that you want to go, where it is that you want to be, whether it is in one day, 1 year, or 1 decade, or 1 lifetime from now. Where is it that you want to be, and what are the steps that you have to do? What is the I know you talked about planning and mapping, Coach. I know you talked about that with your students. This goes hand in hand with the planning stuff, because if you're climbing up a ladder and the ladder isn't leaning against the correct wall, every step you take just gets us to the wrong place faster, right? And so if you don't
backwards,
exactly, you're hustling backwards. And it's so this is it's working with being proactive. It's okay, knowing where it is that you want to go, where it is that you need to go to, and what the steps are that you need to take in order to get there, and making sure that you're taking those appropriate steps and not just random steps along the way. A great way to understand this is develop a personal mission statement, right? So, your mission statement could be something along the lines of it's my mission to create unique, to tell visual stories in a unique way that, and to bring light to social justice, for example, something like that. So, okay, so you want to be a visual storyteller working on pieces that have to deal with social justice. Well, okay, so what are the things that you need to do in order to get to that place? Well, you need to become proficient probably in journalism, so you can tell these stories. You need to be able to become proficient in editing and videography and all those other things. So you need to understand what the skills are and the experiences that you have to gain in order to get to the place that you want to be, so that you're not wasting your time going and learning, going and necessarily learning, but wasting your time on other things that don't necessarily help you get to where you want to go.
Bingo.
So
bingo. If you don't have a plan, you're just throwing your ladder up against any wall and just trying to peek your head in that window. Oh, no. Okay.
Is that the right one? And it's going to just be, and that's just going to be trial and error. And you're going to, that's not the best way to go. That's not the best way to go.
You're going to snap your fingers, be 40 and still haven't figured out what you want to do yet. And and because you have no end goal in mind. And we talk about this extensively in the planning module. I talk about this extensively every day, mapping out long-term, short-term mission statements, things like that. I mean, we just even have daily missions like, hey, today we just want to get 1% better. How are we going to do that? Okay, we're going to do this, and this. We're going to accomplish that and this and this.
Absolutely.
Then the next day starts over, 1% better. This.
Yeah, and then if you guys understand compound interest, that 1% better every day is going to build a lot, and it's going to become and that 1% every day builds and builds and builds. And the next thing you know, you're 500% better in 200 days. And it's
Exactly.
like, holy crap, how did this happen? Well,
Yeah.
you began with the end in mind, and you
Mhm.
took the appropriate steps in the appropriate path.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
let's move to habit 3, which is I have 2 favorite habits. 2 of the 7 are my quote unquote favorite habits. This is the first of them. Put first things first. So this is a principle of personal management. If our begin with the end in mind is a principle of personal leadership, put first things first is a principle of personal management. And it's about, instead of it is about how you organize what it is that you are doing every day, every week, etc. And it's built around this idea that the things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. And so what are the things that matter most, right? What do we think about what matters most? Well, our families, any sort of crises, things like that, deadline-driven projects. And so we're going to get into a matrix. And habit 3 has a very basic matrix that we can use in order to organize and schedule our priorities. And that's really important, to schedule your priorities and not prioritize your schedule. There's a big difference in that. Scheduling your priorities means that is something that is proactive, whereas prioritizing your schedule is reactive. Again, we go back to that proactive versus reactive thing. You need to organize and execute around whatever it is your priorities are. And because effective people are not problem-minded, they are opportunity-minded. And the only way these opportunities come about is because you have effectively scheduled your priorities. So let's take a look at the habit 3 matrix. So we have, first of all, we have, it's like a Punnett Square for all you guys in biology. I know, you guys
Punnett squares. Hey,
Punnett Squares.
Hey, to go back on my previous statement of the book that I don't know the title of, but it's really good about the Y generation, which is a combination of Generation Z and the Millennials. Which Matt, you and I, people make fun of millennials, but you and I are millennials. We don't act like.
Yes, we are.
I don't make fun of millennials. I don't either. We don't act like the stereotype. But when I was reading this book and I was reading about when he was describing the Y generation, I was like, hey, that's me. I'm always asking why. I'm always trying to figure out. I'm inquisitive, things like that. I mean, I fit the Y generation to a T. I'm just more in the millennial and not like the stereotypes that people. I'm getting off on a tangent here, but the stereotypes of people that they say are millennials that are ruining the world. That's actually Generation Z. So just want to clear that up. But the whole point of me going into this tangent is to say. To answer the question, what's in it for me? Like, you're in biology. I'm learning Punnett squares. When am I ever going to use Punnett squares? Well, here you go. Here's a Punnett square. Habit 3, scheduling your priorities, being proactive, figuring out what your priorities are and scheduling them so that you can take advantage of opportunities that come your way.
Yes.
And you can proactively grab opportunities versus having opportunities fly by you and just hoping you can catch one. That's a very stressful way to go about. But the key is personal management.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at this matrix. So we've got on one side, on our x-axis, we've got urgent and not urgent, and on our y-axis, we've got important and not important. So box 1, square 1, urgent and important. These are things that have to get done. These are things that absolutely have to get done. Crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects, and fulfilling your basic needs: food, water, shelter, etc. Right? These are the things that have to get done. If those don't get done, nothing else gets done. Right? Okay, so that's square 1. We're going to get back to square 2 in a second. Square 3 are things that are urgent but not necessarily important. So interruptions, if, for example, if you are, if some meetings and things like that at the office, like if you're, if you're like me and you work at an office, some meetings might be urgent because they're at 9:30 in the morning, but not necessarily important per se, right? Some social activities might be urgent because they're on at a certain time, but they're not necessarily important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quadrant 3. Quadrant 2, however, is where you want to be maximizing your time. Quadrant 2 is where you become the best version of yourself. And that is in the important but not urgent space. This is where you work on things like personal development, building relationships, planning and recognizing new opportunities, becoming better at whatever it is that you do. These are the things that when we talk about scheduling your priorities and not prioritizing your schedule, this means being able to schedule in the things that live here in quadrant 2 into your time every day. So for example, at the moment, I am trying to become better at After Effects, Lightroom, and Photoshop. So I'm taking an hour a day right now to take online classes to do that. But I have to know that I have to get through all of my urgent things in quadrants 1 and 3 before I can get to quadrant 2. Right? But quadrant 2 is where I want to be, because that's more fun, right? Improving my skills as an editor is way more fun than doing paperwork. Building relationships, getting new contacts to come on my podcast is way more fun than filling out forms. Mm-hmm. But those forms and doing that paperwork allows me to actually work on that. So we have to be able to understand and schedule our priorities.
Exactly. And failure to do so creates everything into box 1.
Mm-hmm. And then everything becomes a crisis, and everything becomes a pressing problem. And what I see far too often is my students, especially, everything becomes 1 or 4. And quadrant 4 is things that are not urgent and not important. Trivia, time wasters like partying, video games, etc. They're a nice release. They're a great release. Don't get me wrong. I love video games just as much as, if not more than, the next guy. That being said, if all of your life is in 1 and 4, you're not actually going to grow at all, because you're not growing. You're not improving as a person unless you're spending significant time in quadrant 2.
Exactly, because quadrant 2 helps.
Quadrant 2 is the magical quadrant here.
Yeah. And it helps quadrant 1 not be so crisis driven.
Exactly.
It helps you.
It helps you become more efficient in whatever it is that you are doing. It's all quadrant 2 is that important but not urgent stuff.
Yeah.
And
it helps you.
That's the key to growing, and that's how you get to the bigger and better jobs. That's how you get to more and different responsibilities, and that's how you get the opportunities to. One of the reasons that a lot of people get into film and media production is because it affords you really cool opportunities. You might get to travel the world making movies and making television shows. Mm-hmm. You might get to meet people you would never meet otherwise. Mm-hmm. But it's only if you have done the work and put in the time in quadrant 2, but to improve your skills, that you will get to do those kinds of things.
And also being able to bounce between quadrant 2, 3, 1, hey, I got a deadline, I got to meet. Okay. Yep. I got to jump into quadrant 1 real quick. Well, if I've built my personal skills, it's not a problem.
Well, and on top of that, if you've scheduled your priorities and you know that I have this project due today, this project due in 3 days. Well, I know I'm going to schedule it so that I'm going to, have this blocked out this time to complete this project well before the deadline. So I have these extra couple hours to work on stuff from quadrant 2. And that's what it's all about, scheduling your priorities and not just saying, okay, here's my schedule. What do I need to prioritize? No, you need to schedule. And this is, again, that goes back to being active, being proactive versus being reactive. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So these first 3 habits that we've talked about, being proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first. These are all personal accountability things, right? These are all about how you deal with you. Our next 3 habits are how you deal with the people around you. So let's go to habit 4, which is think win-win. Thinking win-win is a principle of interpersonal leadership that is more so than anything is a frame of mind in the belief that you can find mutual benefit in all human interaction, and that there is a win-win solution where all parties involved feel good about the decision and committed to an action plan. And so this mind frame, thinking win-win, is the mind frame. It sees life as cooperative, not competitive. And so what that means is that because you succeed at something, because you win doesn't mean someone else has to lose. y'all can both win. And it is antithetical to a lot of traditional thinking, especially when it comes to business. But if what your goal especially as a young filmmaker, a young media producer is, especially when you're working for clients, your goal is to make the client happy while also making yourself happy creatively. And so that is a win-win scenario. The win for you is that you get paid by the client and you get to do something creative. The win for the client is that they get something, that look like an ad that looks great for their product or something like that. So that is thinking win-win. And so you want to build these relationships where you have win-win outcomes. And it's finding a way and getting all of the stakeholders on the same page and working towards the end goal. And this is going to go really hand in hand with habit 6 here in just a minute.
This is a great way to think, because it really embodies the team aspect. It really embodies everyone, having a voice, everyone, because if you can get buy-in, your projects are going to go. I mean, if you're being competitive with the gaffer, then it's going to be really tough. And then
really tough.
You're going to end up in quadrant 1 with a pressing deadline that's just stressing you out.
And your project's going to look like crap because your gaffer got mad and didn't stop caring about the lights.
Exactly. So cooperative, guys. Cooperative. And you're gonna deal with some difficult people.
Well, so actually, I'm so glad you said that, because that literally feeds into habit 5, Coach.
That's a tease right there.
Yeah, right there. Because habit 5 is seek first to understand and then be understood. And this is a principle of empathic communication. What does that mean? Well, seek first to understand, then be understood. To paraphrase, shut up and listen.
That's very important right now. Shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen. It's extraordinarily important right now, but it's always been important. But this, and as if we think about it, this is an allegory to medicine. Diagnose before you subscribe. Someone comes into the doctor's office, and before the doctor even sees them, says, "Oh, here, take some steroids for that." Doc, I broke my leg. Steroids aren't going to help. I need you to put it in a cast. Well, if the doctor doesn't take the time to actually diagnose before he subscribes, it's not going to do any good. And so that means listen to other people, listen to what they say, listen to understand where they are coming from, and build consensus from there. Listen not just with your ears, but also with your eyes and with your heart. Pick up on body language, understand the intonations in their voice, and build your listening skills. Every single person has the ability to be an empathic listener. And when you are an empathic listener, your character is such that you inspire openness and trust with people with whom you communicate. And so it is much more difficult and daring, frankly, to seek to understand before to be understood. It takes consideration. It takes courage. It takes the strength for you to be able to say that, I don't know, let me listen to this person and see what they have to say. Because if you try to have it your way and be understood before understanding others, not only do you come off as selfish, but you also are just completely alienating potential allies. And so this habit, it's all about listening, understanding, and consensus building. A lot of what this is about consensus building. And, especially with what we just talked about back with habit 4 and thinking win-win, listening, seeking first to understand, then being understood, and then going into habit 6, which is synergize. These are all about consensus building and working together. So habit 6, synergize, comes from the word synergy, which is a principle of creative cooperation. That means all stakeholders, all people involved working together towards the same end goal. We often hear about things like corporate synergy. Corporate synergy is when Disney, Pixar releases a new film and you simultaneously have Mattel creating new action figures for the movie, and McDonald's having a Happy Meal featuring a toy from the movie, and Target now carrying clothes from that feature a character from the movie. That's corporate synergy, right? All of these different companies working, putting their marketing dollars basically behind one product. In this case, synergize means multiple people working together towards the same end goal. And it's the idea that with many people working together, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so it means that 1 plus 1 doesn't necessarily mean 2. It can equal 8, 16, 1600 if you are all putting your energies together towards that end goal. But the only way you're going to get there is by first being proactive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then beginning with the end in mind, and then putting first things first. And we see this, these all build off of each other until you finally can synergize and really, and that is when, like, synergy is like really when the magic happens, right? When you've gotten all these people who are really good at their specialties
Mm-hmm.
and are now interdependent on each other. You are dependent on them and they are dependent on you. And when you all work together, you can create something so special and so spectacular that no one person could have done it on their own.
And in another context, I see synergy as a quarterback throwing a pass to a spot that the receiver's not even there yet, but he knows he's about to break into that spot. And that's the anticipation comes from synergy.
Absolutely.
Working together, seeking to understand versus seeking to be understood.
And even with that, it's
Trust.
knowing that, okay, well, it's trusting that I know my tackle is going to push the edge rusher out and back, so I'm going to step up in the pocket and be able to have a clean space to throw the ball and that kind of thing. It's all 11 in football. It's all 11 people working together,
doing their job. It's everyone doing their individual job towards one big goal.
Exactly.
And it works in many different facets of life. If you're in automotive, it's the tire guy being able to balance and rotate, the oil guy changing the oil, and I'm not really an expert in the automotive.
I mean,
field,
it's no different than surgery, right? It's not just the surgeon in there. It's the surgeon, it's the anesthesiologist, it's the 5 different nurses that are in there helping them, handing them the scalpel, cleaning the different instruments, making sure the patient doesn't die, is getting enough oxygen, and is all that kind of stuff. Their heart is beating at the right rate. All of those people working together. And we see synergy in every single facet of life and every single facet of business. I mean, your family has synergy, right? Your family has synergy. You're like, we're going to have a surprise birthday for grandma's 75th birthday. And everyone is, okay, well, Jimmy's going to make sure that he cooks up his famous sweet potato pie, and Aunt Jenny is going to, round up all the kids and she can get them to sing all the song and blah, 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 blah. Well, you guys are all using your talents and maximizing your own personal talents while being able to rely on the talents of others on your team to create the end goal.
Exactly.
So
synergy.
And so all of these 6 habits are possible because of habit 7. And habit 7 is sharpen the saw. And this is the principle of balanced self-renewal. And sharpen the saw, if we think of the first 3 habits as personal ones, right? Those really personal ones. And the second 3 habits as the way that we interact with others. Habit 7, sharpen the saw, sort of surrounds all of them. And because what sharpen the saw is, it is self-improvement, and also it is it's about self-improvement, self-awareness, and self-renewal. And so it is important as you go through to be able to sharpen your own saw, right? If you think of yourself as the saw, you need to be able to improve, sharpen the saw, make those saw blades sharper, but also understand that when you have to rest and when you have to recuperate. And so the book 7 Habits of Highly Successful People sort of breaks this down into 4 dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. And so, when it comes to physical sharpening the saw, that's exercise, nutrition, stress management, things like that. Spiritual self-renewal, value clarification, commitment, study, meditation. Mental self-renewal, reading, visualizing, planning, writing, those kinds of mental exercises. And finally, social emotional, that's service, empathy, synergy, intrinsic security, and all of these things work together. And being able to renew all of these facets in your life makes it so you can perform the other 6 habits effectively.
Matt, break down intrinsic security.
Intrinsic security is being at peace with yourself. Intrinsic security is a very fancy way of saying being at peace with yourself.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
it's very, very important to be able to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah,
and say,
absolutely.
I did everything that I possibly could. I gave it my all today.
And even if it didn't succeed, even if you didn't,
I'm going to get better tomorrow. I'm going to sharpen my saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that, I learned today that, maybe, I did not do a good enough job with my own personal nutrition, and that let me down in, one area, because I did not have, enough nutrients to get through my very long day of quadrant 1 issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you see how all of these 7 habits work with each other to help you create sort of a more fully formed being.
Mm-hmm.
So the 7 habits together, in summary, there's a really great quotation from the book that says, that which we persist in doing becomes easier. Not that the nature of the task has changed, but our ability to do so has increased. And so by centering our lives on correct principles and creating a balanced focus between doing and increasing our ability to do so, we become empowered in the task of creating effective, useful, and peaceful lives for both ourselves and our posterity. And our posterity was, how are we remembered? Mm-hmm. And so what this is, the purpose of all this, what this is to say is that this is really all about taking accountability for yourself, being empathetic towards others, and working that together and synergizing with others to create the most fully actualized version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's my 7 habits spiel in 30 minutes.
There you go.
So if you do have a chance, pick up the book. It's a breeze of a read. You'll finish it in a day or two. It's a great little weekend reader. And I would highly recommend it. Just even if you don't, obviously, you're not going to be able to do every single thing that the book lays out, at all times. But these are really good basic principles to understand and be able to live by. So if you take one thing out of this, I would tell you to put first things first and be able to schedule your priorities and not prioritize your schedule. If you remember one other thing, it's seek first to understand and then be understood.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly. And always
organize and schedule your priorities and shut up and listen. And that is going to take you a long way.
Yes. And if you schedule your priorities, you'll live in box 2, which helps you with habit 7. And you'll have the peace of mind to shut up and listen, because you're not constantly stressed out and trying to get your point across because you don't feel like anybody's listening, and you don't grow because I played too many video games.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I went to trivia and I squandered the opportunity to sharpen my saw, whether sharpening that saw was resting, eating right.
There's a lot of ways to sharpen your saw. It's not just doing workshops and stuff like that. Sharpening your saw includes sleeping. Mm-hmm. Sharpening your saw can also include quality time with your family.
Yeah.
Or your friends.
Sharpening your saw sometimes could mean dipping into quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is not always bad.
It's not always bad. That's not what I'm saying is bad. But, it's like everything else. Within moderation. Mm-hmm. Within moderation.
Don't live in quadrant 4. No. Just visit.
Yeah, you can visit. And it might be important for you to step into quadrant 4 when you need to unwind. There are, especially if one of the ways that you bond with your friends is by getting together and playing video games, and that is what you need to do in order to, manage your stress and, be part of a group, be part of something like that, then yes, by all means, just don't do it for 12 hours a day. That's all I'm saying. That's all we're saying. We're not saying don't play video games. I would never tell anyone to not play video games.
No.
But what I am saying is that
go to trivia. Just don't live at trivia.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Because stress-free is great, because when you dip into quadrant 3, you're not going to be stressed out. And you'll be able to, and you won't yell at the person that pokes their head in and asks you to do something last minute. Or you won't go to a meeting grumpy and sit there and play on your phone or doodle or whatever. You'll be actually be engaged in the meeting because, hey, you want to be there. And then doing the stuff that you have to do is not as stressful because you have developed skills in quadrant 2 to be able to deal with all of that stuff and reward yourself into quadrant 4 and not feel bad about it. So that's all we're saying. That's all we're driving at. But 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Highly Effective Leaders, things like that. It's a great read. It's great to live by in your personal life, professional life.
And like, I talk about stuff like I definitely fail at this stuff every day. But again, I'm trying to get 1% better every day.
Yeah,
but
everyone does. But
that doesn't mean that they're not great things to aspire to. So
exactly, and don't be afraid to realize that I'm not going to master all 7 habits.
God, no.
Ever.
It'll take a lifetime.
Yeah, and I'm not going to master them all at one time either.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Start with habit 1. Start with be proactive. Start with just really taking responsibility for yourself and taking accountability. Because if you don't get that, you can't do any of the other things.
Right.
You've got to start at habit 1. You've got to start with being proactive. But that is what really gets the ball rolling.
Yeah. If you're proactive, it helps everything else. It's kind of, it is the foundation. And habit 7 is the showpiece. People walk in and that's the ooh, ah, that's the wow piece. And then everything else feeds into the wow piece.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. Well, thank you so much for having me today, Corey.
Yeah, Matt, I appreciate you
love sharing this stuff.
Yeah, and if you get a chance, listen to Bleav in Vanderbilt Football, hosted by none other than Matthew Perkins.
That's very kind of you.
And take care of my kid Dylan Gregg. I believe he is enrolling at NFI. So when you get there, make sure you say hello to him. He's a pretty good editor.
I've had a couple of your students before, Corey. They usually come in pretty good. So
and he wants to be. I think ultimately he wants to be a screenwriter. The guy is obsessed with the Oscars. He is. It's like he's fanatical about the Oscars almost as much as he's fanatical about Georgia football or the Titans or whatever sport. He loves sports, loves movies. He'll fit right in. So
I'm excited.
Again, I appreciate you joining me. This was module 4. We'll have to step in and do a bunch of these specialized ones, but visit this has been real. I hope you had the great MNPS virtual summer experience. I hope your experience was great. When you finish this, you will have the tools that you need to be successful and well on your way to building your personal brand. So
definitely
plan for the future, win the interview, build a standout resume, or in the production world, because this is not necessarily geared to production only, but you want to stand out. You want to make that first impression with your demo reel and or your resume and or both. You want to win the interview, and you want to build your personal foundation with the 7 habits of highly effective people. And then within the interview and planning, and this kind of blankets all of the aspects, but networking is something we're going to touch on probably separately.
Networking is, the most effective networkers are ones who are always networking.
Absolutely. And all of my guest speakers have mentioned the importance of networking and things that they have done.
You're always every person you meet
and they're all
is
unique.
Every person you meet is a potential contact and is a potential, even if they don't know something or they don't have a job, they know someone who knows someone,
and they might point you down the road. You never know, and you could probably not hear from them for 4 years, and then all of a sudden here they come. Hey, so and so reached out about you and told me, that I should take a look at you.
I mean, I got hit up for a gig recently from someone I hadn't spoken to in 8 years.
I got hit up too for a head coaching job. Unfortunately, I couldn't pursue it because financial reasons and insurance reasons, things that are beyond my control. But nonetheless, I had that opportunity for someone I hadn't talked to in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
always be networking, always be sharpening your
Mm-hmm.
saw.
Yep.
But first things first, be proactive.
Mm-hmm.
All of that will play in. Live in box 2.
Yeah.
Try to live in box 2 as
Live
much
in
as
quadrant
you
2,
can.
baby. Live in quadrant 2.
Quadrant 2. I love calling them boxes. I don't know.
Quadrant. It's all one giant box to me.
Yeah.
But
There you go.
all right. Well,
Matt.
thank you so much. Thanks so much,
Appreciate you.
Coach. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Take care.